At the outset, I want to express on behalf of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame how thankful and grateful we are to be able to have this dinner at last. As you all know, we had to postpone from last year. But we think tonight will be an outstanding evening to celebrate the history of golf in Virginia. Tonight we're inducting the members of the class of 2020 and 2021 into the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. We are so fortunate that 4 of our inductees are here with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the class of 2020, Ms. Candy Comer, Mr. Wayne Jackson, and Mr. David Partridge, and from the class of 2021, Mr. Dave King. Dave. In addition to our 4 inductees in attendance, we're thrilled to honor 3 great contributors to golf in Virginia. They are Richard Smith, Winsell Spencer, and Moss Beecroft. All our inductees have made a significant contribution to the great game of golf, and we're extremely pleased and proud to recognize them here tonight. At your place at the dinner table, you will find a commemorative booklet describing their achievements. You will also find 2 commemorative medallions, one a memento of the class of 2020 and the original date for their induction, which was, of course, postponed to the COVID pandemic. The other one recognizes tonight's ceremony featuring the class of 2021. At our ceremony in May of 2019, we recognized the class of 2019, which included a great man, Bill Millsaps. Sadly, Bill passed away in April last year, but Bill's wife, Nancy, is with us here tonight. I would like to recognize Nancy. Bill Millsaps was an iconic figure in golf and sports in general, and John Weinstein, the great columnist and author, wrote about Saps following his passing last year. He said, "When Saps walked into a room, locker room, media workroom, ballroom, people noticed. He was a big man who carried himself like the athlete he had once been. He played basketball at the University of Tennessee, but everyone knew that." In 2011, Saps won the Red Smith Award, which is claimed most years by writers and editors from major newspapers. Saps was one of a handful of exceptions to that rule. His response to winning the award was to say, quote, "Now when they write my obit in the Times-Dispatch, they'll have something to lead with." For once, Saps got it wrong. There was so much more to him than any award. He was a great columnist, a great newspaper man, and above all, the guy we all aspired to be when we grew up. Now that's a legacy. Saps was a wonderful man and a great friend to all of us. And we miss him. I would now like to ask Dr. Lou Blakey, member of the class, the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame class of 2018, to present the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many gifts, including keeping us together and our families safe during the current pandemic. Especially, we thank you tonight for providing us with such a wonderful game that is played in the beauty of your creation and which provides opportunities for our God-given talents in competition and fellowship with our friends. You have blessed us with the beauty of nature, the ability of mind and body, and the insight of modern technology. These 3 blessings join together tonight in the recognition of 7 remarkable individuals with induction into the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Lou. Enjoy your dinner. Can I have your attention, please? Somebody clank a glass. Thank you. I know some of you are still eating. I thought we would go ahead and proceed with the program, and please continue to eat. And they're going to clear, but let's move our program along. And I want to thank Emily Powell and the members and staff at Hermitage for a really nice dinner here tonight. Can we all thank them? Also, a tremendous amount of work goes into putting this event together, and I wanted to recognize several people who played a critical role. First, Kirsten Roberts handles all the invitations, hotel reservations. Kirsten. Thank you, Kirsten. Chris Lang. Is Chris here? Klang? I can't see. He handles all of our articles and press releases and other materials for our Hall of Fame. Natasha Triplett's not here, but she handles all our finances, so she's back at the office, which is good. Matt Pacilli. Matt? Where's Matt? Matt helps us a great deal with our fundraising efforts. And then Chris Palmer and Anthony Kukas of Kenmont Group developed the website that houses the virtual Virginia Golf Hall of Fame, along with tonight's program and the presentation. Where's Chris? Thank you all very much for what you do. Several members of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame are with us this evening. I'd like to recognize them as well. From the inaugural class of 2016, Vinnie Giles. From the class of 2017, Keith Decker. And from the class of 2018, Lou Blakey, Robbie King, and Bobby Watkins. Keith Decker, class of 2017, and winner of the most VSGA championships in history, will offer a welcome on behalf of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame.
Well, welcome everybody. It's wonderful to be here. We're glad that we were able to do this year. We're honored to have quite a few dignitaries in here tonight. With Dottie Pepper being our MC tonight, what a great evening this is going to be. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Hall of Fame Committee and to the 5th annual induction that we've had for this Hall of Fame. The class is of 2020 and 2021. Everyone in there is so well deserving to be part of this small fraternity at this point. They've each contributed in their own individual way to benefit the Virginia Golf Association and Virginia Golf and golf in general. So have a good evening. We welcome you. Thank you for being here, and congratulations to all the inductees.
To guide us through our ceremony tonight, we are very fortunate to have Dottie Pepper with us. We all know Dottie for her great work at CBS Sports on their excellent golf coverage. She's a 17-time winner on the LPGA Tour, including 2 major championships, and represented the United States in 6 Solheim Cup. She's also the author of a wonderful book entitled Letters to a Future Champion, My Time with Mr. Pulver, which I highly recommend. It's a collection of letters that her coach, Mr. George Pulver, sent to her as she was beginning her golf career. Dottie saved every letter Mr. Pulver sent her after each lesson in a well-worn 3-ring binder. As Dottie writes in her introduction to the book, filled with years of his mostly typewritten letters, it was my reference book for all things golf. But as time has gone on, I've come to realize the binder is more. It's a blueprint for honoring the history and traditions of the game of golf. It also is about mentorship, fundamental beliefs, curiosity, grit, grace, dreams, disappointment, success, and the value of an education. What Dottie didn't know until Mr. Pulver passed away was that he had saved all her letters to him. As much as Mr. Pulver meant to Dottie, it is clear that she meant a great deal to him. It's a sweet story, and I encourage you to get it. It also says a lot about who Dottie Pepper is. One other thing I'll mention about Dottie, in 2020, Dottie became the first Inside the Ropes reporter at the Masters, and that continued this year. I think that speaks clearly about the reputation that Dottie has in the golf community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dottie Pepper.
Thank you. Thanks. It's really nice to be here, to see so many friends, reacquainted with people I had lost touch with over a few years. And Gib, thanks for asking me to do this, what is now about 18 months ago. You promised me this would be an idiot-proof evening, so here I am. He didn't. So before I go any further, how about the United States Ryder Cup team over the weekend? At CBS, we covered 2 major championships, and we turned the rest over to NBC. And they're phenomenal coverage. I spent from 2004 until 2012 with that team, and I miss them. But it was such a treat to sit back and watch what they did so wonderfully over this weekend and watch our team make putts and get going from the start and finish off matches. And it was a treat to be with my friend Mary B. Porter King sitting on the couch at home watching a golf tournament. So I hope you guys enjoyed it half as much as we did, but I think we've seen a tide turning in the Ryder Cup and the preparation and how the guys are having fun playing, and there's a new energy about it. And I think we're all in it for a great ride for the next. These new guys really get it, and they get it. They play hard. They play hard from the start, and that was really fun to watch. So buckle up. We're in for a good one. Yeah. So I was kind of reflecting, talking to Gib earlier today about the others who have been here before me in this same position. And my dear friend Gary Koch, Steve Sands, Tim Rosafort, Terry Gannon. And it's about darn time you guys got somebody from CBS. That is all NBC. All NBC and Golf Channel, but I have to talk about Terry Gannon for a little bit because we go back to my very first network show, and it was for ABC Sports. And Terry was doing the play-by-play, and I was given 72 hours notice to get my butt to Seville, Spain, of all places. I've never done a network show. I've never done a live show on the ground for men's golf. And we were to go to the World Cup in Seville because Judy Rankin had fallen in the compound at the Tour Championship at East Lake and was going to have surgery on both her nose and elbow. So that was my being thrown into the deep end moment. A few things that have happened today make me feel like I'm being thrown into that deep end moment again, but here we are. It was just, it was a way to learn on your feet. So here we are, and I'm in charge of this thing, which is really frightening to me. So bear with me if I screw this up. Welcome to Hermitage Golf Country Club. Excuse me, there's my first one. One of the VSGA's oldest member clubs. Originally built in Henrico County on the property that's now occupied by the Belmont Golf Course, Hermitage moved to its current location at Broad Run in Goochland County in 1973. The new layout featuring 27 holes designed by Ed Alt. Arthur Hills later added 9 more holes and remodeled what became the Sabot course in 2000. The original Hermitage site hosted the only major championship ever played in the state of Virginia, the 1949 PGA Championship, won by Sam Snead. The current property, I loved this, hosted Arnold Palmer's final win in the Crestar Classic on the Senior PGA Tour. Where would we be without Arnold Palmer? Hermitage hosted the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame induction ceremony here in 2018, and we're so proud to be back here tonight to honor the classes of 2020 and 21. So now let's hear what technology can do for you. Information on tonight's inductees, along with all of those that have been previously inducted, can be found on the virtual Virginia Golf Hall of Fame website. Nice job, Chris. A place where you can visit from anywhere in the world without having to take a step. The mission of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is captured in the phrase, recognizing excellence, honoring heritage. Tonight, we'll do exactly that. Inside our virtual Hall of Fame building, you'll find a room dedicated to the inaugural class of 2016. This class was inducted at the Omni Homestead Resort, and I understand it was just a grand affair, and included Vinnie Giles, who we shamed into breakfast this morning. Thank you for getting up for us. Chandler Harper, Clyde Luther, Sam Snead, my former broadcast partner at ESPN and dear friend Curtis Strange, and Lanny Watkins, another good pal. The class of 2017 was inducted at the Country Club of Virginia and included my former Solheim Cup teammate, Donna Andrews, Keith Decker, who we also had at breakfast this morning, Wallace McDowell, and J.C. Snead. The class of 2018 was inducted at Hermitage Country Club and included Dr. Lou Blakey, who led one of 5 Rules of Golf workshops I've attended. Thank you, Lou. Robbie King Unger, Bobby Watkins, and Lou Warsham. The class of 2019, the last time this group was gathered, was inducted at Farmington Country Club and included Bobby Cruikshank, Harry Easterly Jr., Mary Patton Jansen, Tom McKnight, and Bill Millsaps. Tonight, we unveil the walls featuring the inductees of the class of 2020 and the class of 2021. You'll find more information on each inductee in the booklets that are at your tables this evening. If you've not already done so, notice that some of the members of our hall have already taken the time to sign their names in your booklets so that you don't have to stand in line after dinner to get an autograph. More comments about that morning breakfast signing later. So the first, Candy Kessler Comer. That's her. Success as a golfer doesn't always translate into success as a teacher of the game. But Candy Kessler Comer is the perfect example of someone who has made that happen. After a distinguished playing career, she founded Candy Comer Golf, where she teaches players of all ages and at all skill levels. Some of them are even in attendance tonight. Ladies, well done. On a personal level, and I know she's dying to hear this, Candy was an opponent of mine throughout college and a teammate in the East-West matches in our NCAA world, and also on the Curtis Cup. Still can't figure out why Ma Bell didn't put us together to play together, but she didn't do it. She was my accomplice in mischief, oftentimes a roommate. Candy proved herself to be a world class at short sheeting beds, as well as covering toilet sheets with icy hot and saran wrap, or both. True. Earlier today, I had the distinct pleasure of witnessing her leave her Jeep parked here in the parking lot, running. We got through about an hour of the meal and the program signing, only to have a staff member come in and say, "Does anybody know who has the keys to the white Jeep that's running in the driveway?" Only a good pal could share such a public story. A Virginia native, Comer made her early mark as a junior, winning 5 VSGA championships, including 2 women's amateur titles, 2 junior girls titles, and a women's stroke play title. She also competed on the biggest stage in golf, playing in 5 U.S. Women's Opens, including the 1987 championship, where she finished 14th. Comer's play earned her national recognition as she was listed as one of the top amateurs in the country by Golf Digest in 1985. She was a member of the Curtis Cup team that I mentioned in 1986, featuring the best American amateurs competing against the top amateurs from Great Britain and Ireland. As her competitive career ended, she transitioned into teaching and has been recognized as one of the top instructors in the country by Golf Digest, Golf for Women, U.S. Kids Golf, and the PGA of America. Now, as a surprise, gentlemen, will you roll the video?
Hey Candy, this is Corey Amory.
Hey, Candy.
Hey, Candy. Kay Cornelius here.
Congratulations on your Virginia Golf Hall of Fame.
I don't know how many Hall of Fames you're in at this point, but you certainly deserve it.
You are so deserving of this honor, both as a player and a golf instructor.
Your playing career was absolutely spectacular. However, your biggest accomplishment is the mentorship role you've had on countless juniors.
So I was going to try to write a script for this, but you taught me overanalysis leads to paralysis, so I'm just going to go with my gut. You helped me so much with golf and life, big time.
When I think of you, I just think of how passionate you are about golf and how much you love to share the game with others. And you're so generous with everything. You've been generous with me with how much you've taught me and your wisdom and knowledge of golf, and just sharing your home with me at times.
You know, you're a phenomenal golf coach, but I think you're an even better person.
Really just want to thank you for the impact that you not only had on me, but all the other young golfers coming up in the Virginia area.
You taught us to be our best, to work hard, to set goals. A lot of the lessons you taught me when I was 7, 8 years old, I still teach to my players today.
Just wanted to say thank you for teaching me how to kick guys' butts on the course.
There's so many, but I did think about one memory, and that is when we used to travel in your beautiful van. And when one of us would get tired from driving, well, we wouldn't pull over or stop and switch drivers, but we would put it on cruise control and switch seats. And probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but we were good at it, and it still makes me laugh.
I have so many fond memories of our days at UNC on the women's golf team as teammates. We shared so many laughs, and I just want to say you threw some outstanding parties at your apartment.
Thank you so much for your support and guidance through the years. Your mentorship and friendship has meant so much to me, and I know I wouldn't be where I am today without your support.
So congratulations to you.
I know your dad would be proud.
I still do believe you are one of the best golf swings I've ever seen.
All I can say is cheers to a Hall of Fame career and to you.
Well done. So here's a relic for you from the 1986 U.S. Curtis Cup team. Woo! We've changed a little bit. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct Candy Comer as a member of its class of 2020 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond, presented on this 29th day of September 2021.
Well, I'm going to give this a shot, but I just wanted to clear one false statement from Ms. Pepper. I believe we were staying in a private housing at the Fox Chapel. We had the upstairs, and we had a couple girls downstairs. One of them is in the Hall of Fame. Is she here tonight? Dottie did the icy hot and the saran wrap. I'm just saying that was not me. Now, I was in the discussions though, so. But anyway, thank you, Dottie, and what an honor it is for me to have my best friend here tonight. So I really appreciate you being here, and thanks, Gib, for, I think it was a coincidence, but boy, what a blessing, so thank you. I want to congratulate all the inductees tonight and all the past inductees. I mean, I'm still kind of pinching myself that this is happening. I want to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for honoring me with one of the greatest achievements of my life. I mean, I just can't tell you how honored I am. These accomplishments do not happen without a great family, a team, and friends. So there's a few people that I want to thank tonight that without them I would not be standing up here. And the first one is going to be Phil Owenby. Phil was an assistant golf professional at Farmington at the time. I had just been told that I couldn't ride horses anymore because of severe allergies. I was a shy, pretty quiet 11-year-old. Phil probably didn't get much out of me, but I was always hanging around playing golf, and he took me under his wing. And Phil really taught me the fundamentals of the game of golf. I still work on them every day when I get out and practice and play, which hasn't been much the last few years. And Phil continues to be a mentor for me every day. I know I can pick up the phone and call Phil for anything, and he's there for me. Also want to thank his wife, Susan, who let him stay with me late into the evening or meet me early in the morning to help me pursue my dreams. So thank you, Susan. Phil also, and my girls that are here tonight, that I'm so thankful that they're here and appreciative, Phil also introduced me to ice cream. So on really hot days, I'd be working hard, and Phil would come by and he'd say, "Is it time for Baskin Robbins yet?" I was like, "Yeah," and we didn't go small. It's like go big or go home. He'd bring a pint, and mint chocolate chip is my favorite. So, and I still, my girls, we have a state junior champion, and we got another ice cream coming up here. Elsie just won a Peggy Kirk Bell. So they get ice cream too, Phil. So they thank you as well. This next person I want to thank is Robbie Unger, who was a member at Farmington and was always willing to play golf with me and encourage me every day. What a great mentor and a great champion, both on and off the golf course. You're a legend. Davis Love, who's no longer here with us, helped me improve my short game after my dad got tired of me hitting the ball to within 50 yards of the green. Sometimes I was lucky to walk off making par, and he was never too happy with that. So Phil and I and my dad and Bob Rotella at the time decided that Davis Love was a great short game instructor, so off Phil and I went to Sea Island quite often to improve my short game. And I'll admit, I was pretty bad. It's amazing how much better it is today now that I don't care quite as much about it. I just play golf. So, but, you know, that was just a great experience for me. The next person I want to thank is Dot Gunnels, who was my golf coach at the University of North Carolina. Can't say that too loud in here, but she was a true cheerleader. Matter of fact, she was a cheerleading coach before she was the golf coach. How times have changed for golf coaches today. But that's what I wanted, because I had a great coach in Phil Owenby, and I just wanted somebody that was going to be positive, because I didn't want anybody to mess with my golf swing. So she, her last words as we teed off in every tournament or every match was, "Have fun," in her little North Carolina accent. And, you know, I carry that throughout my teaching for these young ladies and a lot of juniors. Every junior, every player I teach, I encourage to trust yourself and to have fun. And I tell them every conversation I have, whether it's a text to them before a tournament or the night before, it's remember to always have fun. And I think that's an important thing. And I think Dottie and I had a lot of fun. So I think that's important. All my students, I have a lot of students in the room tonight that I've taught over the years. I just thank you for your support. And it's been my honor to help you and also to continue to grow the game. These golfers become like family to me. And I had a young junior, Colin Murray, who played at Wofford, and he called me one night at home, and he said, "Hey, Coach Candy, I need to talk to you. I need some help." I figured we were going to talk golf swing, right? And so he wanted to ask me how he should do his laundry because his parents were out of the country. So you know what? I treat these kids like they're my own, they're my family, and that was just a great honor to me to be able to talk laundry versus golf swings, to know that he trusted me that much. There was a time his mother said he came home to see me, and she didn't even see him. But you know, he was a great kid. So, and I have just so many of those great relationships over the years. I want to thank all my friends that are here tonight to support me. I even have some non-golfing friends, and Chris and Angela, and I appreciate you guys making the trip. Angela's probably learning a lot about golf. I also want to thank David and Teresa Galden, who are now the owners of Orchard Creek, which many of you know I relocated there last year in early 2020. And it's so nice to work for a couple that have the same passion as I have for growing the game of golf. And I'm just so blessed to be working for such great owners. And if you haven't been to Orchard Creek, which was formerly Waynesboro Country Club, you want to come. They're really doing an amazing job, and the golf course is just in fantastic shape, and I'm just honored to be there. My son Michael and my daughter Megan are here tonight, and they truly are my rock. I mean, they're just great kids. I'm very blessed, and I thank you for always being there for me, and I love you guys. Finally, none of this would have been possible without my mom and dad, who unfortunately are no longer with us. They truly gave me the opportunity to be the best I could be every day, and I know they're looking down on me smiling. Golf has given me so much in life, the friendships throughout the years from players, officials, private housing hosts, and so much more. Great to see you here, MV. I encourage each of you to continue to play golf for the love of the sport, and continue to grow the game by asking a friend that does not play golf to join you on the course. We can continue to grow this game. COVID has certainly helped us, but we can grow it one golfer at a time. I want to thank you again for this opportunity tonight, and I'm so blessed and honored to be inducted into the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. So thank you.
Everybody get a load of her Furman purple suit, too. I love that. Next inductee, Wayne Jackson. As a 15-year-old, Wayne Jackson caught the eye of Wenzel Spencer, who was 15 years older than Jackson and is also a member of this Hall of Fame class. A lifetime friendship was formed between two elite competitors. After this morning, Wayne is now referred to as either speed bump or roadblock, as dozens of programs piled up to be signed with Wayne's meticulous signature after Candy and I blew through ours. Jackson was one of the Tidewater Peninsula's top amateurs for years, and at one point won 10 straight Peninsula Amateur Championships. Jackson was a two-time winner of the VSGA Amateur Championship, taking titles in 1956 and 1965. He was runner-up twice, losing in both instances to Vinnie Giles, a member of the inaugural class of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. Certainly no shame in that. Jackson won the first VSGA Mid-Amateur Championship in 1977, an event that has become the longest running state association championship for players 25 years and older in the country. Jackson appeared in 6 U.S. Amateur Championships and the 1963 U.S. Open. He's a member of the Athletics Hall of Fame at Randolph-Macon College, and he's won 17 club championships at James River Country Club in Newport News, where he is a lifetime member. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct Wayne Jackson as a member of its class of 2020 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond. Presented on this 29th day of September, 2021. Wayne's son, Wayne, will deliver Wayne's remarks.
glasses? Found them. Dad, sorry about your little spill on the way in today, but I'm honored to be able to speak a few words on your behalf. When I received a call from Gib Palmer informing me of my being included in the class of 2020 for induction into the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame, I was pretty much at a loss. For words, first, I was unaware that I was even up for consideration. Second, it took me a few moments to digest the significance of this award. For a Virginia golfer, being included in the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is the greatest honor that one can receive. It is with deep appreciation that I thank Mr. Palmer and his committee for selecting me for a place in the Hall of Fame. It is especially rewarding to be included in the class of 2020 in view of the fact that the inductees are so outstanding. I have the greatest respect for each and every member. At this time, I would also like to congratulate Dave King and Moss Beecroft. Craig, where are you? For their membership in the class of 2021. Golf has been good to me, and the game has rewarded me with the opportunity to meet and make many lifelong friends. I am a very lucky man, and we're a very lucky family. Thanks to all for a truly memorable evening for all of us. Thank you.
Great job, Wayne. And congrats, Dad. On to David Partridge. Only 2 players have won more VSGA championships than David Partridge, Vinnie Giles and Keith Decker. Now he joins those 2 as members of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. A 14-time VSGA champion, Partridge won at nearly every level. He won 2 VSGA amateur titles, 3 mid-amateurs, 3 4-balls, 2 senior amateurs, the Senior Open, I've lost track already, the Mid-Senior Amateur, and most recently, the Super Senior Stroke Play. David, when did you find time to work? Shown here with a young Mark Lawrence Jr., another 2-time VSGA amateur champion. Partridge is one of only 2 players to win the amateur, mid-amateur, and senior amateur. Keith Decker is the other. Partridge is also one of only a handful of golfers to win the Mid-Atlantic Amateur and Middle Atlantic Senior Amateur titles. You didn't work. I know you didn't. Partridge was a member of the 1995 Virginia squad that won the inaugural USGA State Team Championship. He was joined by Virginia Golf Hall of Famers Keith Decker, you again, and Tom McKnight. And otherwise known as the human rain delay, David incurred, well, you laid that on yourself. David incurred only a 4-shot penalty this morning for slow play for his rate of signing these programs. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct David Partridge as a member of its class of 2020 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond. Presented on this 29th day of September 2021.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here. Your attendance makes this celebration even more special. And on behalf of all the inductees, we appreciate you honoring us with your presence. It is at the same time both deeply humbling and extremely gratifying to be inducted into the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. And I would like to extend my heartiest congratulations to all my fellow honorees, both past and present. When Gib called to notify me of this year's inductees, a flood of memories went rushing through my brain. And I admit for a few minutes there, I really couldn't quite think straight. It kind of reminded me when we were kids and we would run to 7-Eleven on a really hot day for a Slurpee. Invariably, and despite repeatedly telling myself not to, I would always drink mine so fast that I would get brain freeze. And just nothing quite worked right there for several beats. Well, it was kind of like that way when Gib called me. In fact, it was eerily similar when Gib called me. And when I finally did regain consciousness, while there were a few sweet recollections of success from over the years that flashed through my mind, there were two thoughts that kept returning to my brain. One was the many special friendships that had been forged through the game of golf and that had become such an important part of my life. And the second was the day that I discovered, quite by accident, that I really wanted to be a golfer. Golf has blessed me with many cherished friendships over the years. My childhood mentor, Pi Griggs, who taught me through quiet example not only how to play the game, but also how to conduct myself on the golf course. While Pi is no longer with us, and oh, how I wish he could be here tonight, his positive example and enduring influence will remain with me forever. My long, close friendship and golfing partnership with Keith Decker. While all of you know what a phenomenal golfer Keith is, I can assure you he is an even finer gentleman who is also one of the most generous people you will ever know. Keith, thank you for being not only a wonderful partner, but also a loyal friend through the years. Tom McKnight, with whom Keith and I were privileged to play on the Virginia team in the inaugural USGA State Team Championship, is so humble, so authentic, and so genuinely likable. All of you who attended the 2019 induction ceremony will no doubt remember Tom's wonderful acceptance speech that testified so eloquently to the caliber of his character. Tom was the rock of our Virginia team. Keith and I knew that Tom was going to play well, and that comfort allowed us to just relax and go out and play. And with Tom as our anchor, we were able to bring the trophy home. Tom, I wish you could be here tonight, and I hope you're recovering from your recent injury, but thank you for being our security blanket for Keith and me that week, and moreover for the dignity that you've always demonstrated throughout your remarkable life and golfing career. There's nothing left to be said about Vinnie Giles and his brilliant accomplishments both on and off the golf course that hasn't already been said. But Vinnie is much more than just a gifted golfer. He is also a role model and an inspiration to now generations of Virginia golfers who strive to follow in his giant footsteps. So I will simply say this about my friend. If I was given the responsibility to assemble an all-star team of classy, dignified, and honorable people, there's no doubt that when I walk to the home plate to turn in my lineup card to the umpire, Vinnie Giles would be my cleanup hitter. While these treasured friendships and so many others were largely on my mind as Gib was talking to me, there was another memory from my childhood that kept circling back through my brain again and again. So much so that I think that this story, while it's never been told in public before, I think the good Lord was telling me that the time has come to share this event from long ago. I hope you will enjoy it. Well, as most of you know, brevity is not my forte. I will be as succinct as possible while hopefully doing justice to this experience that helped shape my life. When I was 9 years old, I had the great fortune to be hired as a cart boy to work on the weekends during the summer at my home golf course, Waynesville Country Club, which, as Candy has mentioned to you, is now renamed Orchard Creek Golf Club. After working there for 4 years and rather miraculously somehow managing to stay out of trouble, well, at least serious trouble, I asked the golf professional if I might be permitted to play in the men's club championship, even though juniors generally didn't play in the event. I had no illusions about what I might do in the tournament. I just wanted the opportunity to play and compete. To my pleasant surprise, and despite being only 13, the golf professional said, "Sure, you can play." And after shooting 2 rounds in the 80s, I was slotted into the 4th flight. While I gained the permission of a golf professional to participate, I'd made the very serious mistake of not asking my parents if I could play. When they discovered that I was signed up to play in the club championship, there were several very serious conversations around our dinner table, as my mother and father weren't quite sure whether their young son was old enough, let alone mature enough, to participate in such an event, and moreover to play against adults. There were several times during those dinner discussions when I was sure that I was going to be forced to withdraw before the first match, but ultimately my parents agreed that I could play. Well, I managed to win my first 2 matches, and in the third round, the semifinals, I was scheduled to play Mr. Ben Cooper. My parents' anxiety about me playing in the tournament went from trepidation to absolute utter horror, for you see, Mr. Cooper and his charming wife Elizabeth were not only very close friends of my parents, but Mr. Cooper was one of the elder statesmen of our club, having served several times as the club president. He and my father also worked together for many years at the General Electric Company, and if those reasons weren't already enough to totally alarm my parents, Mr. Cooper had just been elected the mayor of Waynesboro. So now you have this picture of this mayor of Waynesboro playing against this 13-year-old little kid. Well, as you might expect, several even more serious dinner deliberations ensued, and this time, I was pretty darn sure that my parents were going to require me to forfeit the match. Astonishingly, however, my parents eventually acquiesced, but with a steadfast admonition that if I was not on my best behavior, I was going to be grounded until I was 18 or went away to college, whichever came first. The match was set for the following Saturday. On the day of the match, I was very nervous, not because of the golf or the outcome of the match, but because I was going to be under a microscope. Furthermore, Mr. Cooper, while he always seemed pleasant enough when he came into the pro shop, was rather quiet and just a little hard to read. Also, since it was going to be just the two of us, and Mr. Cooper was in his mid-50s, I had no idea what we were going to talk about, if we were even going to talk at all. Mr. Cooper also looked a little bit like the actor Edward Asner in his later years, which only added to my intimidation. So yes, I admit I was extremely nervous before the match. As we walked down the first fairway, however, a magical thing happened, as it often does on the golf course. Mr. Cooper and I, despite our age difference, just bonded. We talked easily about all kinds of things, perhaps due to Mr. Cooper's savvy political skills, but whatever the reason, we just clicked. We chatted easily, congratulated each other on good shots, putts made, and holes won. We also commiserated with each other on putts that lipped out and the occasional bad bounce. Back when I was young, I could really roll my rock, and after 9 holes, I had exactly 10 putts, and Mr. Cooper was 6 down. But despite the lopsided state of the match, Mr. Cooper never once lost his patience or grew angry, but instead seemed to revel in my good play. The members of Waynesboro have nicknamed the 10th hole at their club the Matterhorn, because the second shot is a very long, extremely steep uphill climb. After Mr. Cooper played his second shot on the 10th hole, I instinctively grabbed the handle of his pull cart and proceeded to pull his bag up the hill. At first, Mr. Cooper seemed rather surprised by my action, but he quickly recovered and accepted the gesture. As we made our way up the long hill, Mr. Cooper told me a story of when he was a young boy. While I'm afraid the details of his tale are lost to the ages and to my faulty memory, what I will never forget was that as we neared the crest of the hill, Mr. Cooper and I were both laughing so hard that between the long climb and his funny story, we both had to stop for a minute or two just to catch our breath. I closed Mr. Cooper out on the 12th green. He was very gracious in defeat, and we shared a warm handshake. The 12th green is the most distant point from the clubhouse at Waynesboro, and so it was just kind of assumed that we would play at least a few more holes as we made our way back to the club. When we finished the 15th hole, it was by now the very late afternoon, so we could easily just walk over to the 18th fairway, perhaps maybe 150 yards or so, and simply just walk up the last hole if we wished. After we holed out on number 15, Mr. Cooper, the elder statesman of the club and the mayor of our city, asked me, the 13-year-old kid who was still so wet behind the ears, what I wanted to do. Somehow I managed to say, "You know, Mr. Cooper, I'm having so much fun playing with you that if you don't mind, I would like to finish out our round together." Mr. Cooper didn't say anything, but instead just gave a short, quick nod. But as he did so, A thin smile crossed his face. The 16th is another serious hill at Waynesboro, and after hitting our tee shots, I again took Mr. Cooper's bag, and this time as we made our way up the long climb, he told me a series of jokes, each one funnier than the last. As we reached the top of the hill, we were both laughing uncontrollably, and indeed we played those last 3 holes like young kids because, well, I was one, and as you know by now, Mr. Cooper was still so very young at heart. As we walked together up the last rise to the 18th green, Mr. Cooper put his arm around me and told me how much he had enjoyed our match, how much fun he'd had playing with me, and that I was going to be a good golfer one day. At that moment, I knew 2 things for certain in my life. My friendship with Mr. Cooper would last forever, and that I was going to dedicate myself and every fiber of my being to being the very best golfer I could possibly be. I wasn't blessed with a great deal of God-given talent. In fact, I've often described myself as a lunchbox golfer. Lunchboxes have absolutely no elegance, and if you've ever watched me play, you know that's a very fitting description of both me and my golf game. My shirt tail is often hanging out. I'm slashing at the ball from all angles, and I often grunt like Monica Seles when I'm trying to get my drive just a little harder than usual. Trust me, it is not very pretty. Lunchboxes are also purely functional, with no added features or side benefits. Another apt description of my golf game. But lunchboxes also represent hard work, and I've always loved practicing and working on my golf game, trying to figure out my swing, striving to improve and to reach that next level, in the hopes that one day, hopefully not too far into the future, I might fulfill Mr. Cooper's prediction of so long ago that one day I might become a good golfer. Many years following our match in the year 2000, I received a phone call from Mrs. Cooper informing me that Mr. Cooper had passed away. After extending my truly heartfelt condolences and learning the details of his service that I could attend, I thought back to our match as I had done many other times since that day. However, on that occasion, perhaps blessed with a little more maturity, I considered the day's events more carefully from Mr. Cooper's perspective. While it was true Mr. Cooper had lost the match that day, he still enjoyed a pretty good day, all things considered. He was able to do the thing he loved most in all the world to do, play golf. He played his home course, which was in superb condition, on a gloriously beautiful late summer day. Mr. Cooper had enjoyed a fun match with spirited yet friendly competition. He'd relived and shared pleasant memories from his childhood. He had told funny jokes. He made a new friend. And he helped transform that friend's life forever. Not bad for one afternoon, but then again, this is golf. And I don't have to tell you how our sport has the ability to enrich our lives and fulfill us in ways that few other endeavors can. That is why you love golf, and indeed why you are here tonight. And so on behalf of all the inductees, we thank you for honoring us with your presence, for all you do to support and nurture the game we love so much. Thank you, and good night.
I'm not so sure how you top that. Ooh. Richard Smith. David, thank you for that. After a long and distinguished career as the VSGA's Director of Championships, Smith retired in 2008 and turned his sole focus to junior golf, where he planted the seeds for what would become the successful VSGA junior golf circuit. Affectionately known as Grumpy by colleagues and friends, Smith was an accomplished player before transitioning to golf administration. He won the Valentine Invitational in 1976 and the Richmond Golf Association Senior Championship in 95 and 96. In 1999, he teamed with Stan Fisher to win the VSGA Senior 4-Ball Championship. Shown here with Virginia Golf Hall of Famer Clyde Luther, Smith, boy, I hear some stories about Clyde Luther today. Wow. Legendary. Smith was well respected by his contemporaries in the industry. In 2008, the Mid-Atlantic PGA honored Smith with the David Wortman Citizen of the Year Award. In 2007, Hermitage Country Club presented Smith with a lifetime membership in recognition of his years of service to golf. Smith passed away in 2016. Smith's wife, Jean, will now come to the stage to accept his certificate. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct Richard Smith as a member of its class of 2020 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond. Presented on this 29th day of September, 2021. Jean.
Okay. Well, this is really an honor. And for those of you that knew Richard, knows that he did not like making speeches, nor do I. And you know, he really enjoyed golf, and he loved working with the youth in golf. And I have some of our volunteers that helped us here tonight, and that's Ron and Sarah Jo Bryce, and my sweet granddaughter here, Lauren, and my other granddaughter, she couldn't make it because she's at UVA. And I also have a dear friend of his from Georgia, Wendell Couch, here tonight, that I know some of you here know. And all I can say is thank you for this. It is such an honor for y'all to do this for Richard. Thank you.
Winsel Spencer. Winsel Spencer was the consummate competitor, one who treated opponents with respect, win or lose. Spencer was a 5-time winner of the VSGA Amateur, claiming titles in 39, 48, 53, 55, and 59. He was a 3-time amateur runner-up and was stroke play medalist in the event 5 times, including when he won in 59. Shown here competing for Team Virginia's and the Virginia's Carolinas matches, Spencer reached the round of 16 in the U.S. Amateur and was runner-up in the North-South Amateur. Spencer dominated golf in the Tidewater Peninsula, winning 11 of the 13 Peninsula Amateurs in which he entered. During his career, Spencer held 7 course records and logged, this is not a typo, 34 holes in one. He was inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame in 1991 and passed away in 2013. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct Winsel Spencer as a member of its class of 2020 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond. Presented on this 29th day of September, 2021. Spencer's family, citing COVID concerns and issues with travel, sent along this letter. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to be allowed a few remarks on behalf of my family, or my father, Winsel Spencer, on this special occasion. My father would have wanted me to first and foremost express his sincere appreciation and pride for the honor bestowed upon him by his induction into the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. All Virginia golfers will forever be indebted to and appreciative of those individuals who have worked so hard to bring about the existence of a Hall of Fame, which acknowledges the accomplishments of golfers worthy of induction in its membership. My father loved the game of golf and the lessons of life to be learned by those who played it. Patience, commitment to effort in any field of endeavor, and the importance of accepting victory as well as defeat with grace and humility. How does one find a game that can be enjoyed all your life and give the participant a great sense of satisfaction and accomplishment? My father would have answered by saying that he found it, and it was called the game of golf. With great appreciation from the Spencer family, I am sincerely yours, Wayne Spencer. At this point, our earlier this evening's inductee, Wayne Jackson, would like to share a few thoughts on Winsel Spencer, as delivered by Stuart West.
I was a bit honored, very honored to just be invited here. Last year, when he was to be inducted, Winsel was, as Wayne had told me today, kind of a father figure to him. He was kind of the crazy uncle to me. I grew up down the street from him, and he influenced my life so much, and I could not be more honored when Wayne asked me to kind of deliver his words. So these are Wayne's words, and as I promised Gib, maybe 30 seconds of my own words. I will do this when it's my words, but Winsel was a truly unique and wonderful person. So from Wayne, thank you. On behalf of Winsel Spencer, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the selection committee for including Winsel in the class of 2020. Winsel and I were friends for over 60 years. We met when I was a teenager and have played over 100, possibly hundreds of rounds of golf together. He was a joy to watch striking a golf ball. His iron shots were pure and trajectory almost perfect. I played with many of the best players in the world, but I am of the opinion that Winsel Spencer was certainly one of the most consistently accurate iron players I have ever seen. It takes a certain amount of luck to get a hole-in-one, but it takes a skill to get the shot close enough to even have a chance to fall in. Winsel had 34 hole-in-ones. Winsel, in his house, once told me, I don't really remember. I stopped counting when they stopped giving you that, Titleist stopped giving you the ashtray. Please raise your hand if you have an ashtray. Yes, so amazing, and that was at 27. Most of us are familiar with Winsel's skills as a golfer, so I thought I would share with you a few other things about him. Winsel was born in Kentucky and raised in Newport News. He was introduced to golf at about age 8 when he started caddying at the former Old Dominion Golf Club. He quickly caught on to the game. He was a Navy veteran of World War II. He was a fun-loving individual with a good sense of humor. He gave me my first unicycle. Not Wayne. He gave me my first unicycle. He had a chin-up bar in his yard between 2 trees that grew every year. He gave me my first BB gun, which my parents hate him to this day for. He would ride down the street on his bicycle, his butt on the handlebars, riding backwards, all the way down the street and back. He was in his 50s at the time. Winsel was very meticulous when it came to his golf equipment. He regularly waxed his McGregor persimmon wood and his Tommy Armour Silver Scott irons. I had a 4-iron of his. And they were always clean and only showed a golf ball size wear spot in the very center of each iron. The last thing I would like to share with you is the example of how Wenzel was generous in his time and his willingness to help others. Orville Moody, Old Sarge, was assigned to Fort Eustis for his last year, tour of duty, and became Wenzel's assistant head pro at the club. Wenzel quickly recognized his talent and wanted to give him every opportunity to hone his game and to make it on tour. So much that Wenzel loved the game, he would regularly man the shop and encourage Orville to play and practice. Orville later became successful on tour and became a winner of the U.S. Open. In summary, we have a man who was an accomplished golfer with a zest for life, a zest for life. With a good sense of humor, he would take time to help others. He was well-liked and respected by his fellow competitors, quite a nice legacy. And to think, on his last day of Earth, Wenzel was playing in a scramble with his buddies and was several under par. I heard 2, Wayne heard 4, when he suddenly passed on the course at age 94. I hope that's me. Virginia lost a very special golfer, a very special man, a very unique man, and a very wonderful man. Thank you.
Stuart, great job. That's not easy. Tonight, we also get to unveil the wall featuring the inductees of the class of 2021. Moss Beecroft, a haberdasher of national repute. Moss Beecroft blossomed as a senior golfer. Beecroft burst onto the VSGA senior scene in the mid-1980s, winning the first of his 6 VSGA senior amateur titles in 1986. He also added titles in 88, in 1990, in 92, in 94, and I don't know what happened in the next 5 years, but it took him until 1999 to win again. He was also a finalist in 1989. He was the tournament stroke play medalist in 1985 and 1992. It was a run of dominance that has not been matched. Beecroft's game translated nicely to the national stage as well. In 1991, Beecroft was the stroke play co-medalist at the U.S. Senior Amateur and advanced all the way to the championship match. He was also the low amateur at the 1992 U.S. Senior Open at Saucon Valley. Beecroft was inducted into the Peninsula Sports Hall of Fame in 1999. Along with wife Frances, Beecroft founded the men's clothing store, Beecroft and Bull, more than 60 years ago in Newport News. Beecroft and Bull now has locations in Virginia Beach, in Richmond, and Charlottesville, and has been recognized by national publications as one of the finest men's clothiers in the nation. Beecroft passed away in 2020. Beecroft's son, Craig, will now come to the stage to accept his father's certificate. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct Moss Beecroft as a member of its class of 2021 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond. Presented on this 29th day of September, 2021.
Boy, it doesn't get any heavier than this, does it? Well, first of all, congratulations to Wayne Jackson and the other inductees today. Wayne's a fellow Newport News native, and he and my father did some serious battle over the years. I think, Wayne, you came out on top a lot more than my father did. But I want to thank the VSGA and the selection committee. Sorry. For honoring Mossy Beecroft with inclusion in this very prestigious group of men and women. I want to thank the Hermitage Country Club for hosting such a wonderful event, such a great dinner. Thanks to my friends and wife for showing up today. Boy, Mossy loved the game of golf. He loved competing. He loved playing on the Virginia State team. He loved battling with many guys in this room today. It's hard to put into words. He would never dream that his golf career would come to this night, and sincerely grateful. This is the third Hall of Fame induction that I've been a part of, and the other two were very special, but this one puts a real stamp on his life and career. Dottie, I want to thank you for that introduction. I really enjoyed watching you play on tour, and I did some reading up on you before tonight's event, and I discovered some parallels between you and my late great mother, Frances Beecroft. You were both fierce competitors. You didn't take crap from anybody. You spoke your mind at will, free will, which I admire. You're both avid gardeners, and you both had great love for your hometown, and gave back whenever you could. And if we have time during the reception, I'll clue you in on a very humorous story about Frances. One thing she did not share with you was her skill on the ski slopes. She had an incident at Massanutten several years ago, not far from here, that effectively ended her ski career. We'll talk about that later. I bring up my mother because you can't talk about Mossy and not bring up the other half of the dynamic duo that was Moss and Frances Beecroft. She was not only co-founder of Beecroft and Bull, but she really was the glue that held us together. She recognized very early on my dad's talent and gave him the freedom to pursue his passion for this great game and become the golfer that he was. Without Frances Beecroft, there wouldn't have been Mossy Beecroft as you know him. My earliest memories of being around golf, one of my earliest memories, really had nothing to do with the actual playing of golf. When my mom was brave enough to bring my brother and I to the Farmington Country Club to watch for the Kendridge Golf Tournament, instead of following our dad around, my brother Brian and I used to hijack golf carts around Farmington and see how far we could take them for a joyride until we got caught. Needless to say, in subsequent years, we discovered fewer and fewer unmanned golf carts around Farmington. My first real glimpse and understanding of Mossy, the golfer and the man, was at the 1970 Eastern Amateur. He was in a four-way playoff with Steve Melnick, Eddie Pierce, and the then little-known Tom Kite. Eddie and Tom were dispatched on the first hole, and Steve and Mossy went on to battle for at least 3 more holes. On what turned out to be the final hole, Steve poured in a 40-foot bomb for birdie, and Dad had to step up to his 35-foot putt and nearly made it, left it right on the lip. We had been following him all weekend, and obviously we were heartbroken but very proud. At the award ceremony, we were all standing together and with Steve Melnick, as a matter of fact, and instead of awarding my father the runner-up trophy, they had matched scorecards, and because he had the highest score on a particular hole, he was awarded 4th place instead of runner-up. And obviously we were horrified, and so was Steve Melnick. He got up to protest, and my dad held him back and said, "Nope, that's their decision. It's okay. It's the way it is." And in so many words, he said something to the effect that we had a great duel, and they can't take that away from us. So he walked up and grabbed his fourth place plate and I believe a toaster oven, and handled that very true, and was very, very gracious. I don't have to tell you, this room, that golf is technically just a game, but it also reveals character, integrity, and sportsmanship. And that was, again, my first dose of that from my father that night. Aside from vicious $5 Nassau's at James River Country Club, he was as gracious a loser as he was a winner. I didn't see him compete much in college and after, when my brother and I proudly took over the family business and tried not to screw it up to this day. But in 1992, my father invited me to be his caddy at the Senior Open at Saucon Valley. Now, my knowledge of caddying is limited to the guys at James River Country Club and to other caddies that worked with my father over the years. But I thought I possessed enough knowledge that I could stay out of everybody's way and not embarrass myself and, more importantly, my father. So I jumped at the chance. On the very first hole, our knees were knocking, especially mine, just like they're knocking now. Dad held onto his drive a little too long and pushed his drive under a tree off the fairway on the right side. And when we walked up to the ball, of course, I'm staring at it with a deer caught in the headlights because I have no idea what kind of club to give him. And he calmly and coolly pulled out either a 3 or a 4 iron, punched it under the tree next to the green, and in pure Mossy fashion, got up and down for par. And with that, he flashed his famous toothy grin and gave me a wink. And from then on, everything was a little bit more chill. He had a great first round. He was actually on the leaderboard with Jack Nicklaus at 1 under. And I had 2 golf ball size blisters on my heel after walking that beautiful but very hilly golf course. And Dad was set to find a replacement, and I would have none of that. So I patched myself up and carried on, literally. He had a great tournament. He actually teed off after Jack that 4th day. Didn't have the greatest of days, but was played well enough to be low amateur by 13 strokes. So, my dad's legacy. Obviously, his record in the state of Virginia and also nationally is one of the reasons why he's here. But to me, his legacy are the hundreds of people that have come up to me over the years, especially the last 4 or 5 years when he stopped playing, and just told me how much they enjoyed being around him, whether they were playing with him, against him, or just watched him play, or found 15 minutes to talk to him, or became friends with him. It was just overwhelming how many people have come out of the woodwork to express their appreciation for my dad. This may sound like a cliche to call your father your hero, but he truly, truly is my hero. And in closing, I just want to thank you all again for this special honor and this recognition, and I'll never forget it. Thank you.
I can't wait to hear the rest of that story. David A. King. A tireless supporter of senior golf in Virginia and beyond, Dave King has earned regional and national recognition for his efforts. Golf Week recognized him with the prestigious Yancey Ford Jr. Award, and the Maryland State Golf Association honored him with the Dawson Stump Lifetime Award. Tonight, he joins the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame. He was also the last in our program signing this morning, stating, "This is tough on the arthritis." King's long and distinguished playing career includes qualification in 17 USGA championships, including 8 U.S. amateurs. He reached the round of 16 in a U.S. amateur, a U.S. mid-amateur, and a U.S. senior amateur. King won the VSGA Senior Amateur and was VSGA Senior Golfer of the Year in 2002. In 2000 and 2001, he was on the winning side of the VSGA Senior 4-Ball Championship. King founded the Dave King Senior Invitational at Evergreen Country Club. Winners of this prestigious event include Virginia Golf Hall of Famer Keith Decker. Yep, that's Keith Decker again, shown here with Dave. Philanthropy was also a passion of King's. As part of the VSGA VIP Scholarship Foundation Awards, David established and endowed the David A. King Scholarship Award, which provides financial support for high school seniors headed to college. In all, 20 students have received the David A. King Scholarship. The Virginia Golf Hall of Fame is proud to induct Dave King as a member of its class of 2021 in recognition of many years of excellence and outstanding contributions to the game of golf in Virginia and beyond. Presented on this 29th day of September, 2019. Oh, gosh. You know what? Here we go. I'm gonna throw Gil right under the bus. 2019, Gib. 2019. I just read what I'm told. 2021. Congratulations.
The first thing I have to do is thank Gib Palmer for having the idea of having the Hall of Fame in Virginia. And he's done such an incredible job. It's hard to believe. And I need to thank the committee. I need to thank the VSGA for all the things they've done for me. And there's just so many people to thank. And I have played competitive golf for 70 years, and I am still playing competitive golf and love it all the time. But I have had so many incredible things happen to me through golf. It's hard to even think about. And I'm not going to, I could stand here for 100 hours telling you stories about golf, because I've had some incredible stories to tell. I do want to mention 3 of the people that have been in before. One is Vinnie Giles, and he was my hero. And he did miracles in golf. He did miracles in the Walker Cup, and he did miracles in so many places. And I consider him one of the top 5 amateurs of all time. The first time that I got to play with him, I was so nervous. We were playing in the last group of the Eastern Amateur. And because he didn't play in the Eastern Amateur all the time, we had a pretty good crowd following us. And I was so nervous that on the 8th hole, I was a great lob wedge player. And for the first time in my life, I go in and get that lob wedge up in the air. Unfortunately, I hit it twice. It was the first time I'd ever done it in my life. But anyway, that set me back in that last group on the East End. But we get to 18, and Mr. Giles is 45 feet short of the par 5 and 2. The scoreboard's up there, and he realizes he needs to sink the shot to get into a 4-way playoff. Now, a lot of people had followed us along, but we're the last group, so everybody's there, and local TV is on. So Mr. Giles did one of those miracles that he had done so many times, and he makes it. The crowd goes absolutely nuts. I looked at the other guy we're playing with. I says, you know, that's going to be a 4-way playoff. Tom Kite's in it. Moss Beecroft was in it. And there was, I think, a young fellow from Arizona that was a college player. And by the way, he and I were two of the oldest players in the tournament. I said to the other guy, there's no sense going watching this playoff. It's over, because nobody's going to beat him in that playoff. And of course, sure enough, he got it done quickly. One other quick story about Vinny. He was captain of our Virginia teams playing the North Carolina teams on his course. And he's the captain, but he's also playing. That had been the year that I won the Virginia Senior, and I was already over 60. And because I had won it, he puts me off in the final group, in the first group of the individual play. So I've got to play the number 1 guy from South Carolina who had won the South Carolina, North Carolina championship. The guy's about 6'4". He's probably 220. I'm this old man walking up on the tee with my running shoes, my long sleeves. And this guy looks at me and he thinks, this match is going to be over by the 12th hole. So this guy, I hit it out the best I can hit it. He's at 50 yards by me. And somehow I hit a 3-wood that I could never get to that first hole over there. But it lands about 30 yards short and it rolls about that far onto the green. And my opponent, I hit 3-wood. He probably hit 9-iron. And he's up about 20 feet. Unfortunately, the pin is back right, about 75 feet. I hold it. So this guy is not quite as happy as he was on the first tee. So, make a story short, I birdie the first 4 holes. And this guy is going nuts. He says, how could this happen from this old man? So Vinny is playing behind me, and he hears that I've birdied the first 4 holes on his wonderful golf course. And he has to say, how in the hell did King birdie the first hole? Because he can't get there in regulation. So anyway, I had to tell that story on Vinny. But he had that southern accent, and I've heard that, and I couldn't stop laughing. But the guy I was playing wasn't laughing, I can tell you that. The other 2 I want to mention is Keith Decker. I admired his game from a distance for many years. I'd go to Danville, And every single tournament, he'd shoot either a 64 or a 65 every single year, one of the days of the two-day tournament. And I'm thinking, this guy's unbelievable. Well, by working my way up in the game in Virginia, we got to be a little closer, and then when we got into the Hall of Fame, I got to meet him more because I was on the committee. And then he started coming to my tournament, my national ranking tournament for the seniors that I've run for 23 years at Evergreen. And he's won the damn tournament 6 years in a row, which is unbelievable against the best players in the nation. The third Hall of Famer is my friend, Dr. Lou Blakey. Dr. Blakey and I happened to belong at Bethesda Country Club. At the time, both of us retired. I happened to be at 50, and he happened to be 7 or 8 years older. But we both retired about the same time, and we kind of decided we were going to take senior golf seriously. And he had two goals. He wanted to get good enough to be able to qualify to play in the Society of Seniors, which is our great scratch organization of senior golf. And he hadn't qualified for any national event, and so he really didn't have the credentials. So that was one of his goals. The second goal was to be able to become on the USGA as I'm losing the word, but anyway, he became the best guy that ever was on the rules committees. He was fabulous. In fact, he's the only person that's ever taken the rules thing and scored 103 straight times. Nobody else has ever done that. But he and I had about a 5-year period where we were playing a whole lot because we had both just retired. And my goal was just to play as much senior golf as I could. And I got that accomplished, and he got both of his things accomplished. And so we had a great relation, and we even won a couple Northern Virginia Better Balls together. So anyway, I need to say that those three people were special in my life. I want to now talk about the people at my table. First of all, my younger brother, who has been my best friend for life, 4 years younger. We're both sports crazy, and we've lived a lot together with a wonderful family, and he's come all the way from the state of Washington to be here tonight. Say hello, Art. Now, the better part is that his wife is also here. She has also come from the state of Washington, obviously. She is the most accomplished woman that I've ever met. And it's a dream to have her in our family. Thank you, Laura. Okay, here's some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. There's Mr. Newland, Kenny Newland, and Polly, who I've known for almost 50 years, I'm sure. And he's one of the players that whenever you play, you have the best time you've had. He is a great guy. And there's a quick story about him. He had 2 consecutive hole-in-ones a year ago at age 84 on the 9th and the 11th hole. And I'm a statistician. The probability of that is unbelievably high. Can he stand up? Well, he probably can't. He's old. Let's go to John Lombardozzi, is one of my newest friends. We met through Matt Chagru, and he won the senior club championship at Trump. And he and Matt won the best ball tournament there is in the country at Wingfoot called the Anderson Better Ball. And that is Vinny would talk about that. It's one of the best ball tournaments there is. And so in this, I met him. He wanted to start playing competitive senior golf, and of course he knew who to go to talk about, because I've done more than almost anybody with senior golf. But John Lombardozzi. The fellow in the green jacket over there was one of the best competitors in Virginia, Jamie Golf. He did a lot of work for the VSGA. He was a war hero during Vietnam. He is a fabulous amateur golfer, one of the best. Vinny would add to that. And we really got close in senior golf, and he's one of my best friends. Every Sunday night we talk about all the golf that went on during whether it was our games or the pros or the ladies or whatever, but we do that every Sunday night. Jamie Golf. And the young fella next to him is Matt Chagru. Now, Matt Chagru grew up on the 6th hole at Bethesda Country Club, where I've been a member for 53 years. And he and I both moved to Virginia later in life, and he was a great young player, and was a very, very good amateur player. But he decided he wanted to become one of the best as a senior player, and he has been one of the best. He won the Virginia Senior Open. He won the Maryland Senior Open. He goes to the British Amateur and loses by 1. He plays in the U.S. Senior Amateur and he loses in the finals. So this guy has made incredible accomplishments, and he's a better person than golfer. Matt Chagru. And last but least is pretty much a lifetime Virginian, except for when he worked, and that was down in North Carolina. But Yancey Ford is an interesting story. The first time he played in a senior tournament, he gets paired with me, and we have been best friends ever since, which is amazing. Now, his accomplishments is we have the Society Senior that was started and run by Ralph Bogart for about 20 years, and it's a huge senior organization. He became the second president of that and ran it for 10 years. And then he convinced Golf Week, who does the national rankings for senior golf, that there ought to be some kind of award for people that make contributions to senior amateur golf. So they agreed, so the reward is Yancey Ford Award. Obviously he was first, and he chose me as second, so he has become one of my best friends and a wonderful person. There are 5 people that were great friends, and they are not here for multiple reasons, and I want to mention them. Dr. Harry Kane, who moved to Virginia and began playing senior tournaments just pretty much like I did down in Williamsburg. One of the finest people I've ever known. He's done some incredible stuff, but he was a wonderful golfer, and he was the one I met when I first came to Bethesda, to the Washington area, and he convinced me I should join Bethesda, which was an incredible, correct thing to happen because we had a lot of good players, wonderful golf course, and he became as famous in the Virginia senior golf. But he was an amazing man, and he was the one that got me into Bethesda's 53 years ago. The next one I want to talk about is Ralph Bogart, and he was the one who ran the Mid-Atlantic Amateur. He won 11 Maryland state championships. He was a legend, and quite a bit older than me, but when I came to the Washington area, he realized that I was a good player, and he started mentoring me and telling me where to go play golf. And the first one he talked about was the Kenridge at Farmington and the Valentine at this club. And lo and behold, I won both those tournaments early in my career. And that kind of changed everything for me. And he mentored me for a long time, and so I was quite grateful for that, and he was a wonderful man. For about a 10-year period through amateur golf, I ran into Dave Pelz, and most people know that he is the great teacher of the short game, and he did more invention in golf than anybody ever. The teacher putter, the two-ball putter, that was his invention. He started a short game school which forced all golf. He understood, he was a physicist, and he understood the importance of short game. And so he was the one that got country clubs to build short games, because everybody was reading his book and realizing that short game was really critical. And so a lot of clubs didn't have short games when we were growing up, and now everybody has them. But he was an amazingly high IQ man, and he ended up, we played better ball for 6 or 7 years together, and it was a great learning experience for me just to be around. He was a very high IQ, and God, he had so many incredible ideas. And he would do some crazy stuff to try to find out why things happened in golf. But he was a physicist. But anyway, I wanted to mention that. And I had, a fellow that was 2 years younger than me that was a Naval Academy graduate, and I had known him well as an amateur, but in senior golf, when he turned senior, he says, "I want to play with you best ball." And I thought, well, I'll enjoy that. He's a great guy, a wonderful person. We won our first 6 tournaments together, 2 down in Florence, 2 state championship team things, and 2 others around the nation. But unfortunately, he passed away about 5 years ago. But he actually beat Mr. Giles in the finals of a senior amateur. So you know he has to be. He just didn't lose golf tournaments. So Tom was a wonderful man. He was the most charitable man I've ever known in my life, and I needed to mention him. And the last one is a fellow by the name of Jack Vardaman. Jack Vardaman was Sam Snead's lawyer. He ran the largest law firm in D.C. He was a very good golfer. He had a home overlooking the homestead, a historic home up on the hill on the other side from the homestead. He was the lawyer for the USGA. He was on the board of directors for the USGA for a long time, and one of the nicest men you'd ever know, and I got to be very close friend. He also runs the First Tee program. He was head of the First Tee program that's so successful in Washington area. But, and unfortunately, he passed away last year. but what a man he was. So I've been very, very fortunate to have that kind of people that I got to know and be friends with. But I want to thank everybody and all the inductees and all the ones that are in the Hall of Fame. I've gotten to be friends with. I've known them, most of them, my whole life. And to be in this Hall of Fame is something I'll never forget. Thank you.
And we just all got a great lesson in Virginia amateur golf and just how special this game is and why we're really here tonight. So going forward, let's give one more round of applause to the inductees of the Virginia Golf Hall of Fame 2020 and 21. Gib promises me that there's going to be an announcement coming up shortly for the class of 2022, so look out for that later this fall, when the location and date for next year's ceremony will also be announced. And my personal congratulations to everyone who went into both classes this year. This was a really special evening. And thank you for taking the time to celebrate the game of golf, for celebrating your families, your friends, everybody that you've touched on your way to being parts of this induction family. And at this point, please join us for a reception just a bit down in Jefferson Hall. Thanks for a great night, everybody.